everyone, and welcome to Valoranting. I do want to cuss. I personally think that is fucking bullshit. What can I do for you? What can I do for you? This is the best produced podcast I've ever been in. Ladies and gentlemen, welcome back to Valoranting. It is Tuesday, the 8th of September, and we have a big show coming up for you. I am joined by Simo and Veli this week. Gentlemen, always good to have you along. And even though she is in the intro, we have not seen Pansy for several weeks now, and we're starting to get concerned. So if you do see her wandering the streets, you'll notice her probably either day drinking or maybe sipping on a cafe, tweeting memes into multiple discords at the same time. Simo, how you feeling?
Doing good. It's been a dream of mine to be on the show. Now I'm on the other side. You know, usually I'm on the other side in the chat watching, supporting you guys. But it's good to be on it, and I'm just pumped. It's gonna be a good show. It's gonna be a good show.
Absolutely, Valley. How you feeling? Everything keeping tight this week for you?
Baby, life is great. I'm happy that we got Simo on the show. Simo put on his favorite gamer shirt. He thinks he's cool now from the phase whatever it might be.
He was talking about G Fuel in the pre-show. Yeah,
right. We get it. You casted some sponsored tournaments, all right. But I'm excited, man. We have a different type of event this weekend with a lot of tier 2 teams, and it's going to be really high level. So it's going to be our first time seeing something like that on that particular level. So I'm really excited for this week and more to come.
Yeah, we've been talking a little bit about the tier 2 scene, and we'll get into that in just a moment. But we also have a very special treat for you guys this week. We have an interview. We did get scooped by ESPN, which unfortunately does happen when you're going against one of the biggest, I guess the biggest name in sports, right? So we do have Josh. We have Josh Steele Nissan joining us. We'll bring him in just a moment. There he is, the man himself, fresh out of the hair gel tub. And you know what? I'm happy to have you along. Steele, how you feeling?
I'm good. How are you? Thank you.
I'm doing very well. First of all, I have to give you a big congratulations for signing to 100 Thieves. We have lots to talk about, but I first wanted to give a little bit of a background of how I know Steele. We met in California back in 2017 when you were doing analyst work for PUBG, of all games. I want to hear about the PUBG days. And how close were we to seeing Steele in a professional PUBG uniform, also known as a white plain T-shirt with a stenciled marker on the back?
Well, the PUBG days, yeah, it was after playing like Overwatch and didn't really like that. Still banned from Counter-Strike, so I was playing a lot of PUBG, and I actually found it really fun, and I enjoyed streaming it a lot. I was almost doing like 24-hour impromptu streams just because I enjoyed the game so much, and I don't know why. Like, the game was pretty buggy and bad and everything, but it was new, it was fresh, it was exciting. Getting into those like top 10, top 5 situations, getting to the end game was really fun. I was grinding out the leaderboards. I was in the top 10 of the leaderboards for a few months in a row, and that was kind of enjoyable. But I wanted to satisfy that competitive itch, so I was, trying to see if I could put a team together, and I ended up playing with the people who had then become the EG roster, but that's when unbans from ESL and then DreamHack started coming out. I'm like, okay, I'm going back to CS. Bye.
See you later.
See ya. Yeah.
I completely understand. Well, I think you made the right choice because now you finally landed yourself in Valorant, and personally, I couldn't be happier for you. You just had a big interview with ESPN about all the iBuyPower stuff, so I don't really want to talk about that today. I'm sure you're tired of talking about that shit as well. So as far as your move to Valorant is concerned, I wanted to know. I want to ask the fan questions first. So 100 Thieves, that was where you've landed, but I want to know, how close was T1 Steel? Was that ever on the table?
They offered me.
Oh,
but sorry, I don't know who specifically from T1 offered me. My agent said there's an offer from T1, but I've tried it before. Like, we played on iBuyPower together, myself, AZK, Swag, Skadoodle, and then again in CSGO just a couple of years ago, even
Torque,
like
I believe,
early
right?
2018. Torque GX, yeah, I played with Swag and AZK again there, and it just doesn't work out. And it would be silly to think like, okay, third time's a charm. It didn't
Right.
work out because we have different like in-game philosophies, different personalities. We're just different, and it's not a bad thing. It's just not meant to
Way she
be.
goes.
And yeah, and to like kind of live this nostalgic thing, to be like, oh, bring back up at Power 2014. It's like, well, you know, I was also on the way to leave the team then for the exact same reasons that, you know, the team didn't work out in 2018. So why in 2020 is it going to work? I don't see that. So to me, it was never really an option, just because I feel like it wouldn't be, I wouldn't be joining them or whatever for the right reasons. It would just be like a storyline nostalgia piece, as opposed to like, I really think that this is going to work out this time.
Right. And I think that was, as a fan, and that's why I label as a fan question, when you kind of look at the pieces. And I guess I look at you as a player as a pure, like if there is a, like, in the sense of there's pure point guards in basketball who do all the passing, you're a pure IGL in my mind. Would you agree with that statement? Do you consider yourself an IGL first?
I do have a lot of IGL qualities, but I don't need to be an IGL first. I think that if I see something going wrong, I'll definitely have to have my input. It's not like I'm going to sit there, watch something that I don't like, and just be like, not my job. I'm not going to talk about it. So I'll definitely like interject and butt in when I need to. But you know, I've definitely taken the back seat on multiple teams. You know, when I played earlier in Counter-Strike with Daze, for example, I wasn't the IGL. When I first played with AZK back in CS Source on Dynamic in 2010, AZK was the in-game leader. When I played on MTW, Nookie was the in-game leader. So there are definitely parts of my career where I haven't been the in-game leader. Even on iBuyPower, you know, parts of the time Daze was the IGL, and other parts I was the IGL. So it's not like I'm always the IGL. It's just something that I do need to have like a pretty big voice if I see something that's not going well, or I have like a certain perspective. I think that my perspective is valid and it should be heard. I think everyone's perspective is valid and should be heard. I just kind of find mine to be more right than other people. Then I say,
we'll say
try it this way.
Yeah, well, we'll strip out the IG part and just say you have a leadership personality. You like to be involved in decision making and stuff like that. Which, that's why I think a lot of people looked at T1 as a team that you would fit onto. Like, personality, you know, kind of stripped away in all the previous history. That team is, you know, obviously looking for leadership, and I think that would have been an interesting fit regardless. But let's talk about 100 Thieves, because this is another team that has a bunch of IGLs on it. So I want to know the dynamic of the squad in its current form. You have Hiko, you now have Nitro, and yourself. What is like the early kind of conversation sounding like from a roles perspective? What are your hopes for the first, let's say, 6 months of the squad? And what are you guys kind of looking for as far as, like, how's the vibe feeling right now, just initially getting together?
The vibe with S3 is pretty good. Like, I think we're all just trying to slot into whatever roles we need to be in comfortably. I think for the most part, I'll be on the German Gadget Girl, and, you know, maybe I'll have to like flex over to Cypher or maybe another Sentinel. With Nitro and Hiko, they've swapped around between, you know, smoke characters, Sova, and also like Nitro was on Duelist, but it really depends on who the last two pieces of the puzzle are. With regards to kind of early conversations, I was speaking to Nitro a little bit when he was, you know, the situation with him on Liquid was like, not knowing what his future was. He was kind of like looking at Valorant, is this something he wants to do, type of thing. And then when he finally decided on it, he's like, yeah, like, you should come play too. I'm like, yeah, I've been weighing that option myself. It's just, you know, timing and the offer needs to be right. And we never really sat there and talked about like roles specifically. We're just like, you know, everyone seems to be really bad in this game. Like, we could join, make a team together and just destroy everyone. And
Okay. Can we before you continue
what?
really quick? Can
Like
we
what?
just unpack that statement real fast?
Yeah.
Oh,
please.
that's
Everybody
really
else
good.
is bad. Is that what I
Please.
just heard?
I
Shit
mean,
on
am
him
I wrong
still.
though?
I'm
Okay,
already in love with this.
so hear me out. Okay, there's loads of people that have like insane mechanics, right? Like their aim is way sicker than anyone's. Like they send any of those aim apps that they click the little dots, just hours, whatever. They're insane mechanically, but they haven't grown up in like a competitive CS setting type of thing where they go the distance in tournaments. They don't understand like properly like communication and teamwork. They don't know like how to really break down the strats properly and like create like these super like interesting and creative execs. It looks very like basic level CS that I'm watching when I see Valorant. That's what I see today. And I just see so many like wasn't even playing the game full time, and I'm like, why don't they use like this character this way? Like why like Killjoy is not even in the meta because her mollies got nerfed. I'm like, what? Her mollies were like just bonus
good.
to her kit. Yeah, it was just bonus. Like she's still a sick character. And I guess I just have like a differing perspective from everyone else, but like from tournaments, it looks like people just group up and 4 people just go this place with an op leading the way. You just shift walk around, you get that pick, and you explode. And it's like, surely that's not it, right? Surely there's more to the game.
Yeah,
than
there's
that.
got to be something more.
Yeah,
And that was kind of the feeling we've had watching a little bit. Is the it's counter-stratting and a little bit of and that was kind of, we all agreed that this was going to be the case for the first little bit. Have you felt that like and you can finish your point that you have in your mind, but like, do you feel that Valorant is evolving slowly in that sense?
I think yes and no. Like the people that are kind of setting the trend and setting the meta, it feels like they don't really know what to do, and they're just playing it like it's Counter-Strike with agents instead of, everyone's got a smoke and everyone's got a flash. And everyone's abusing the fact that like if in Counter-Strike you're on CT side and you are playing against players that are just defaulting like 1-1-1-1-1 type of thing, you're gonna grab 2 ops and you're gonna punish them. And then it's going to force them to have to play together. It's going to force them to have to use flashes to clear you off angles and smokes. But this game, you have 1 smoke character and like 1 or maybe 2 flash characters per team. And that makes ops so much stronger. Then you combine the fact that you can play a character like Jet that can take a shot and just dash out with or without the kill, or if you get blind or double swing or whatever. You can't do that. Like in CS, if I take an aggressive angle with an op and then I miss a shot or I get flashed or whatever, if I need to jump and run away, I need a teammate there to back me up. People in this game, they're just like, yeah, I'm going to go unpunished. So first of all, you have the fact that majority of the players that are kind of on like the top teams in Valorant right now, they don't really have like a deep they were like mid-level MDL, maybe high-level MDL, and some people, maybe some players were low-level Pro League, maybe some players used to in Pro League like 4 years ago, be like a top 3 NA contender. But right now, it's just like overwhelming amount of MDL level players, low MDL, high advanced, or people that never played CS before. So you don't have like the proper the fundamentals of this is how you can back up your teammate. These are like ways that you can play together so you can like punish this guy or so that you can back this guy up. And it's just kind of like you just go out there, you have insane aim, and you have these characters that can just get out of danger for free. It's like get out of jail free card. And people just use that and abuse it. And there's no real way to deal with it yet because people haven't figured it out. And it just seems like everyone just goes and does the same like generic, let's just go for this area, work it together, use all of our abilities, and then execute. And there's no like, just feels like people don't know how to default properly. People don't know how to like bait out the utility.
So it's all these things, all these high level skills that that you develop. And I'm going to sew you into this just because I'm a mean person, but there's a lot of people that I've kind of I know that you've kind of had an influence on that are currently in Valorant. So I'm interested to know your former teammates Sabrosa and Wardell. Do they fit into that one-dimensional camp that you're kind of describing right now? Is looking at a team like TSM that's comprised of so many of your ex teammates? Do you think that they kind of have that same ceiling on them right now from an execution standpoint?
I haven't paid too close attention to like a strategic point of view from their team, but I could definitely see that they would abuse the fact that they're both mechanically really skilled and have more experience than I guess the rest of the competitors, barring like maybe T1, sorry, not T1, Sentinels, because Sentinels still has like a lot of players that were playing high level CS, like
Pretty recently.
you know, sure, like relatively speaking. And then you
Yeah.
and then you have like Cloud9 has some players that kind of played bottom pro league, top MDL type of stuff, and it's not many people that do have that. So if you're able to play a character like Jet one trick and have an op, and when you don't have an op, you have knives that throw and one
Yeah.
shot. It's like, why do you need to have strategic depth if you can get away with this? So they're not thinking
Okay.
about the future of Valorant. Like, what am I going to do when people learn how to play against this? They're thinking about, well, no one can stop it now, so I'm just going to keep going. Stop me,
Yeah, and that's kind of my next question, is because you have this transition, and Valorant is such a unique game. And do you think that the agent and the transition from Counter-Strike to Valorant is, and to kind of go back to your previous point about how kind of simple everything is right now, is that due to the fact that people just aren't game planning for agent abilities rather than trying to counter strat or deal with like the Jet op or the Jet one trick that has been kind of ravaging the scene for so long?
It's hard to say, because from my perspective, I played Counter-Strike differently than most people did too. So most
Right.
people would use their smokes, for example, on CT side at a choke point. I would use it defensively and play around it. I would use it as a one-way. I would put it so I can peek left or right, and it like gives me more space. It makes it harder for them to like push into me if I'm playing in a site or any area. It makes it more difficult for them to push in at me, and I stall them, and then I can get like ratty kills. Whereas other people, they would just put it at the choke point, and they would straight up take the aim duel of people coming through the smoke at the choke point. But they're not considering like, oh well, I'm going to get flashed off the angle, then they're going to come through the smoke, and then I'm going to take that duel. I don't play like that in CS, and I don't play like that in Valorant either. And I feel like not many people play CS like I play CS, and not many people play Valorant like I play Valorant. So it's hard for me to have that type of perspective. I do think that people haven't been super creative with agent abilities yet in terms of how to like secure areas, but I feel like people haven't really figured out the maps either. And it's something that I've noticed when I play, in 10 mans or in pubs. I just feel like it's just so weird that they have certain agents go to certain sites as like, this is what you should do. This is how these guys do it. So you should put this guy here. Like Sova on B on Ascent. And it's like, you're gonna do a full exec and rush him. What's he gonna do? Throw a shock dart at you? Like,
Yeah.
why
Yeah,
is he there?
right.
Yeah.
So so looking forward now, and all this will be my last question before I open up to my other co-casters here. Is I'm interested in, like, you're talking about how you've been observing other people play and some of the things you would change. Do you feel that your identity as a Valorant player is fully formed at this stage? Are you still acclimating yourself to the game? And do you think that looking forward that you'll be bringing a lot of this stuff that you're saying is not good from other players? Are you going to be rectifying that on 100 Thieves? Are you going to be kind of leading that way and showing us some of the innovation that maybe we just haven't seen yet? I'm interested to know if you have big plans to show all of us, or if this is just more of an observation.
I'm looking to kind of bring some of that innovation to Valorant, but at the moment I am acclimating a little bit. I think I need a little bit more playtime against other teams, because so far every team I've played against has had a different style. So give me at least one more week of playing against different
week?
teams,
Okay, I guess that's
partners.
allowed.
Yeah.
Yeah,
That's enough.
Yeah.
That's enough. Yeah,
No,
that's enough.
but like, I mean,
You
like,
got it.
we play one team and they have this style. We play another team, they have another style. We play another team, they use different composition of agents. We play another team, they're really super aggressive. We play another team, they're heavy sentinels and they're really passive and slow. And you need to kind of feel out all the different styles that exist today, because the first time you play against a new style, it's going to completely destroy you if that style is better than, if that style counters your style. So you need to figure out like, okay, this is how they're doing it, and this is how we beat it. And then once you like experience it the first time, that's when you can start setting protocols and everything. And obviously, like, people can beat you and they can like change, make little variations and everything along the way. But for the most part, you need to kind of get a feel for what the style is and what the best way to play against that style is. And the first time you see that style, you might get caught off guard and lose rounds here or there. And I think right now I'm at the point where I'm feeling pretty confident in the game, or comfortable. I'm getting to the point where when I play like ranked games in pubs and people don't know like where they should go with their agents, or they don't know proper rotations, and they're doing everything so like, I guess, elementary. I'm getting annoyed the same way that I got annoyed in Counter-Strike, and I'm like, I feel like that's my indicator to myself that I'm getting comfortable with the game and getting to a point where I'm no longer in the this is new, I'm going to soak everything up like a sponge, and it's closer to the my sponge is kind of wet right now. And
Steel sponge is wet right now, ladies and gentlemen. That's what we've discovered. So I'm glad to hear that.
That's
Hold on a second. I have a bonus
Thumbnail.
question. I'm gonna give it right to you after this, I promise. But this is something that just came to me. So knowing all the things that we just learned about, you got a big brain. You're going to be analyzing the game. I want to know, since you're on 100 Thieves now, where did the previous roster go wrong? If you can speak to that.
Ooh.
I didn't watch the previous roster, but I'd imagine it's because they didn't have. Actually, I can't even answer that because I kind of heard some things from Hiko or from the manager on 100 Thieves that it might muddy up what I would think versus what's part of like what they said. So I don't think it's fair to answer that question. But I could imagine it's because they came from PUBG as a big part of it, that they didn't really look at the game. I feel like the game is 80% Counter-Strike crossover, and I think that they didn't consider it to be like that and didn't want to kind of give it that sort of, what's the word? Just, oh my God, why am I forgetting languages?
No, it's all good. I mean, it was easy to watch. It was easy to watch them play. Yeah, they didn't get it. Yeah, the respect was hard, and I mean that, and they had that on as a stigma from the very, very beginning. I have my own thoughts on that, but I want to hand it over to Veli on that, unless you have something else to add.
I was just gonna say, not like the respect of the players. I'm saying like they didn't treat the game enough like it was Counter-Strike, and they treated it like it was just an FPS.
Right.
They wanted to play the game the way that they saw the game, the way it needed to be played. Like, I could understand that completely because I came from a lot of different FPSs, and I wanted to make Valorant my own understanding of how this game should be played compared to the way the CS guys did it. And I found out real fast I was wrong. But my first question to you still, you described playstyles of Sentinels being, real strategic, real slow. You take a look at G2, you look at TSM. If you had a dream playstyle for 100 Thieves when this roster is done and finished, what would it be? What type of team would you guys be?
I would like to be able to kind of flex between a methodical approach and an explosive approach, depending on the map, depending on what we were feeling at the time, depending on our opponents. I feel like ultimately, especially if there's more agents being added to the pool and you add more maps, and potentially if there's a lot of agents, there would be like a pick ban thing. I would imagine that people would have to flex between different agents within the same role, and you would have a lot more dynamic in that regard. So I think right now, without enough information about how what the trajectory of the game is going to go in terms of, is it going to be like how many agents are there going to be, or is there going to be a cap to it? Is there going to be like a pick ban phase? How is that going to work in competition? I feel like it's too hard to say right now. But I would like to be able to be both methodical and explosive when we need to be.
I got you. That was a good answer. I have one more question. Sibo, you can have it, Mr. Face Clan. So Josh, I just met you. You could be the most cocky piece of shit that's ever walked this green earth. I don't know, but you seem very humble. You seem very nice. And you seem honest, and that's one thing I really love about you. Right?
Get a couple drinks in them. We'll have a different discussion.
When COVID's over, we're gonna redo this interview. Looking at Sentinels, looking at TSM, looking at Cloud9 and all these other top teams in the game, do you think that their gap is that significant from first to second all the way throughout 6th, 7th, and possibly 8th? Or do you think there's still room for teams realistically catch up within the next month or so?
I think that teams will catch up, and I feel like the first 3 to 6 to 9 to 12 months of a game, when it's in its early infancy, you will see all sorts of like jumps when people figure out like this team will use this at one tournament. It will destroy everybody. Everyone's going to see it. They're going to learn it. They're going to do it. And now that team's lost their edge. Everyone's doing what they were
Right.
doing that made them so good. So what's the next thing that they do? Are they just going to play it and then try to be a little bit better doing the same thing? Or is someone going to like set the next thing, develop the new meta, or be the next innovative, like, you know, you had the NIP era, then the Fnatic era, and the LDLC, whatever, SK era in CS. You're going to see those types of eras happening in this game as well. And it's going to be set by, you know, partially by how a team plays the game, and then also by how the game changes with the balancing of certain agents or certain weapons or the maps, or, you know, you have to play this character to play well, and oh, it's banned. You have to play another duelist. You can't do Jet Op.
Gotcha.
Sorry, pick someone else.
Right.
Where are you going to go? Are you going to be as good at that? Like if you have to eco and you don't have knives to throw at people, like what are you going to do? So I think there's going to be kind of like ebbs and flows. I think that a lot of players are going to get eclipsed shortly by other people that are just hungrier, that have more time to put in the game. Dude, there's so many unknown people I've literally never heard of that have the insane mechanics,
the organic talent.
And if they learned how to play with like proper fundamentals and teamwork, better communication, all these things, and their mechanical ability, that's just gross. But right now, like, you know, you can have any 17-year-old that can 1v1 me in an A map, and I'll probably still, like, you know, do laps around them. So
I love it. Love the confidence.
I appreciate you, man. All right, Simo. I guess
Simo, go
it's your
ahead, or
turn
I'm
now, man.
Yeah, Simo, go ahead. I have more questions too, but I don't want to make you sit in the corner for the rest of the interview. So
yeah. First,
it's like
first,
Steel
I
on his
want
face
to.
man shirt, like, poor guy. Anyway, go ahead.
First, Steel, I want to thank you for coming on. You know, giving us the Canadian advantage, 3 against 1. Sorry, Valley, it's very unfortunate in this for you, but you know, it's all good. It's all good.
It's all love,
you know,
baby.
You pointed out,
I'm from Alberta. I don't count.
Yeah, you're kind of you're partially American there over there. You know, you mentioned something very interesting, that Valorant is 80% CSGO. What is that other 20% to you, and how does that divvy up against other FPS titles? Like, it's obvious that there's agents and there's, you know, utility similar to Overwatch in some sense, but what is that other 20% to you?
It's just like a mix of different games. It really comes to the abilities and how you play with the abilities. So the 80% Counter-Strike is just like, it's 5 versus 5, about the same round time, same general objective, plant the spike, either A or B or C, and you play out a lot of the situations the same way. You know, it's better to go here when you see these people here. It's better to play the post plant like this, like let's peek together, or I take first contact. I have low health, you have high health, you bait me, type of thing. So a lot of that is just straight up just Counter-Strike. The other 20% is how you use your agents and how you use your abilities. And in Counter-Strike, everyone had the same agent, so to speak. You could purchase your smoke, your flashes, and your molly or HE grenade. And everything was the same. You had the same movement stuff. There's no like dashing or anything like that. So everyone had the same agent in Counter-Strike. But in this game, people have different agents, and with the different agents, you have different abilities. And then within the abilities, you have the option to play it defensively or offensively. Like you can use Sage as kind of like a person that slows down the enemy and you use her for execs and stuff, or you can use her as like a battle sage and go aggressively and use her like a duelist. And I feel like people are looking at the agents and being like, oh, this is an initiator, he must go in first or something, or this is a duelist, they must do this, or, you know, why not have a raise that
They listen to
lurks,
the UI.
you know?
They're just looking at the UI like, okay, this is a duelist.
Yeah.
That's what he
I
is.
think Raze as a lurker and Sage as like a duelist is incredible. It's insane. But I don't know. I feel like people are limiting like the ways that they view the game for some reason. And I think that the abilities do come, you know, from whether it be MOBAs or Overwatch or Rainbow Six or whatever. I think that, you know, when you don't have abilities and you just have smokes and flashes, it's beyond that though. It's beyond that there's different abilities rather than just smokes and flashes. I think in CS, people didn't know how to use smokes and flashes properly either. Like there's so many players that I've seen that, you know, they're saving all their utility for like the next round or the next game or whatever. It's like, dude, you could have used your flashes in this situation for your teammate and you could have gone like 8 kills in a round, you know? And then they're just sitting there holding them with their gun out. It's like, dude, you can use your flashes, you know? You can use your smokes. And I don't know, it's just the feeling that I get that people don't really know what they're doing with, because like they didn't really know that they were doing Counter-Strike. They don't really know what they're doing with their abilities in Valorant either. And I think that's why some people that come from different gaming backgrounds or people that have played different games, like I played Counter-Strike, but I also played Warcraft 3, Starcraft 2, I played Rainbow Six, I played Overwatch, and I played yeah, and you know,
You
I
play
played
Rainbow Six,
and,
man?
well, not professionally, but I, you know, casually played like all of these games. You know, I didn't play
Right.
StarCraft 2 professionally either, but I was master's level. So, you know, when you have like when you play in Dota 2, when you play a variety of games like this, you kind of learn things from those games and you can bring what you learned and apply it to the game that you're currently playing. So, I played Counter-Strike as a profession, but I also played a lot of PUBG. And in PUBG, you learn about like patience and you learn about like approach and, you know, being methodical and stuff. And when I play Counter-Strike, then I know how to slow it down and be a lot more patient and wait for this opportunity instead of like, I'm going to send it, you know? And I think being able to bring things that you learn from other games can really help you, your perspective and your ability in a different game. And that's what the other 20% is.
I think.
Do you sometimes sorry Seymour, I just have a quick follow-up on one thing that you just kind of triggered here for me, Josh, is the idea of kind of looking forward and bringing an open mind and stuff like that. And as a CS player, it's kind of felt that Valorant has been claimed by CS players at this stage. And do you think that that window of dominance, we'll call it, is going to be short-lived for those people who are, in your mind, not ready to adapt and bring that outside experience? And what do you think is the landscape? How quickly is that going to shift here in the next probably year, I would imagine?
Yeah, so I think this is what you guys were talking about in like pre-show about the League of Legends player that played 2 years and just got signed to a team, right? I think that's what exists in every game. You have the people that kind of set the meta, and you have people that come in from a different background, and so when I got into CS, I got into CS in 2008, 12 years ago. The amount of times the meta shift and the game has changed drastically in that amount of time, I can't even count. So at every stage, I have to kind of like wire my brain a certain way, and then I learn the game, and then the meta shifts. Like the Astralis comes out, and they're like, "Oh, did you know about these things? No? Well, here you go." And you have to kind of like rewire your brain to kind of incorporate all this new information. So right now, the game's at a certain meta. And if a new kid comes in and he learns this game right now, he can be better than everyone else's at this meta. But I feel like what happened in Counter-Strike to a lot of the people that ended up in Valorant is that they got really good at the meta at the time, that they grinded hard, they got to their place in like a short period of time, relatively. And then when the meta shifted, they couldn't shift with the meta, and then they kind of fell out because they just stayed the same. It's not like they got worse, they just stayed the same. I think Valorant's at the stage right now that we're kind of still developing the current meta, but anybody that comes in the next few months is going to learn everything about how the game's currently played. They're going to get really good at it. They're going to eclipse the people that are currently good at it, but then they're going to get eclipsed down the line. And then it's going to be, are you going to sink or swim? Are you going to catch up?
Right.
Are you going to keep evolving as the game evolves? Or are you going to be one of these people that, you know, ended up going from Counter-Strike to Valorant in recent times? Are you going to be like one of them that you were good at the start of the game, and then, you know, a year or two later, you're like, who?
Yeah, absolutely. I understand that. So I look at the at what you just said as far as like, you know, someone coming into the game, shaking things up, using like all the brain power, focusing 100% on what they're doing. So I'm going to put you in that model. Are you having had all your YouTube content, a lot of famous rants on your YouTube channel about, you know, different strategies about CS, the approach to the game? Would you say that in your mind the CS door is now shut and you're moving forward? Are you going to be channeling your energy, at least in its current form, all the way into Valorant, or is there still a little bit of still a bit of CS in the rear view?
There's no CS in the rear view right now. It's like, obviously I have some friends left in the game. I'll, you know, chat with my ex-teammates every now and then about, you know, funny things that are happening, like a certain team losing to a team with a coach, and that's always a nice chuckle.
That's always fun. That's always a good time. Little chats among friends.
But for the most part, yeah, it's in the rear view mirror. I know that, you know, I'd actually be interested to see, like, if someone like the CSPPA went to Valve and is like, okay, all of the players have quit playing the game and they've moved on to Valorant. Are you gonna, like, you know, just kind of be like, oh, you know what, you know, if you have this unwritten thing that you're not going to come back to this game, we'll unban you just for the sake of like having that kind of cleaned off your record, so to speak. You know, I'd be interested to see if that would happen, but right now it's Valorant. Like CS, I've almost completely mentally checked out of it. Like there's nothing there. It was there. I'll remember the memories of it, the good ones mainly. But
until that one day in the shower, you're just like, oh fuck, I remember that. Jesus Christ. Yeah.
But I mean, as much as it can be kind of in the past and that I can be mentally checked out, it's still going to be something that this game, Valorant, is 80% Counter-Strike. I need to recall on these things that I learned from this match or this event or this team or this teammate and apply it. So, you know, you close it off in the form of, I'm not going to go back and be a competitor in that game or like an analyst or commentator or whatever, but there's still like valuable things that I learned from my experiences in that game, and that's always going to be tied with Counter-Strike. So in that respect, you know, it's always going to be there.
I have one more question for you before we let you go. You've been mentioning through the interview, someone coming into the game. You're waiting for that person or the phase of Valorant to come in where there's someone who comes in to shake things up, bring a new perspective, have some innovation. And I have to ask, do you think that person is you?
I hope so. First we need a full roster, I guess, and then we can really get cracking on it. But the way that people play things, like I'm afraid that as time goes on and we're not playing in events or I'm playing like a lot on stream, I'm afraid that I'm like accidentally slipping out like what I want to do to other people, or like maybe someone on one of these other teams is watching my stream and sees like one of my ideas and I'm like, oops, that I want to save for my team for an event or something like that. And then they're like, maybe we should start doing this. And that actually, one thing happened where a team used Killjoy in a certain way and had like a trap set in a very specific way. And I remember a week prior showing our coach that exact like sort of trap. It was like they used it on one map at a certain place. I used it on another map, but the exact same type of strat or trap setup. And it was linked to me. I'm like, God damn it. I want to be the first one to use that. But yeah, so I want to do it, but I feel like the longer time goes on and the more like I stream and other people get to like kind of read the type of stuff I do, I feel like other people are going to start catching on to it. So I really want to just get into a tournament and get a full roster and then just be like, all right, here it is.
Hey, Moses, I know you're not going to ask any more questions, right?
Okay.
I have one more. I had to cut it before you were going to throw it or whatever. Hey, Josh, I'm not saying you have to break NDAs. I'm not saying you got to name someone you really was going to pick up or you're looking to pick up. I'm just going to ask one simple question. If you and 100 Thieves were to pick up and fill out the rest of this roster, which players would you want?
Yeah.
Ninja. Sorry. Oh, that's
Okay, Sibo.
Yeah, I don't know if I can answer that.
Okay, I'll try.
Well, okay, it's hard to hard to answer, right? It's hard. Like, what if
It is hard.
What if I say a couple of names right now, and then we don't get those guys, but then we get a couple of other guys who are like, "Man, I was."
You didn't even want me, man.
Yeah, you know?
exactly.
And they feel like,
Yeah, no,
they feel like
there's
ass,
no-
and then they
There is no
perform like
way
ass.
he's answering that question, Valley. I appreciate the attempt. I mean, I appreciate the attempt.
slip
Simo,
up,
I'll give you one shot as well. Let's see if you can do better than Valley for your last question.
Okay. All right, I'll take it. I've seen you in and around CSGO. I'm not personally from the CSGO scene. You know, I've spent a lot of time in League, but from what I do know about you is that you are probably one of the best galaxy brain thinkers in CS. And, you know, like Moses alluded to, you've got a lot of opinions and you're very opinionated in how the game should be played. I really want to know who has, if anyone, has impressed you outside of mechanics in terms of thinking about the game and thinking about how Valorant should be played, and who would that be? Maybe it's a coach, doesn't have to be a player, it could be an analyst. Like, who's just impressed you on how they think about the game?
I haven't had a chance to like really speak to people about it in that way, outside of my current teammates and coach, because I just don't like sharing that type of stuff. I was watching like Sean Garrett's stream, for example, when he was doing like one of the watch parties for a tournament, and like I think he has a good read on the game, and I also like how he looked at Counter-Strike. So, because I already liked him in Counter-Strike, I don't even know if that qualifies as impressed. The
Yeah.
problem is I haven't spoken to anyone, so it's hard to answer that. All I've seen is what I've seen from tournaments, and if people have other ideas, they're not doing them. So that's what I'm basing that off of. In terms of impressing, though, I'd need to speak to someone, and I don't want to share my ideas with them. So
Steel,
Yeah,
not
that's
impressed
fair.
by anyone
That's
in
fair.
Valorant that says everyone else is bad. That's what we got out of this. That's what we got out of this interview. So obviously,
Clip it and ship it.
I'll give you a little bit of time to get to know all these things. We'll say a week or so. I'm sure would be fine. So
Yeah,
that should do it.
Same time next
Yeah, same time next week. We'll chat it. We'll touch base with you when you're in. So we're gonna let you go. Thank you so much for taking the time to talk with us, Steel. I cannot wait to see what 100 Thieves shapes up to be. I hope you find the rest of your roster, and we can't wait to see you in competition. I'm sure you can't wait to be in competition. So congratulations again. Thank you for joining us, and we'll see you next time.
cool. Thanks.
See you guys.
Love you still.
All right. What a guy. What a great interview. So shout out to
That was
Steel.
a good
and now,
interview.
yeah,
That's
yeah,
amazing.
absolutely. Well, it's the best thing about Steel, and I really hope this doesn't change. Daniel, slide me over a little bit. I can't move over here. I'm stuck in the frame. Everything's fine. So, so I can't wait to see how he. I can't wait to see how things play out, and I really hope he keeps that quick wit and the edge that he's always had. So,
You know what I like?
so it's been a. What's that? He doesn't
I
pull
like the
punches?
fact that he's like the way people play this game. I don't fucking understand it. I don't like it. The way they use a utility, the way they make it easier for operas. I'm like, yo, this is the shit me, Moses, and Pansy been talking about for months now, man. I love his.
If you've ever
vision,
played
though.
matchmaking, I'm sure you find yourself saying, "What the f are these people doing?" And that's I think Steel feels that, except on a much higher level. So so we have some more stuff to talk about. And now we're gonna have to go turbo speed. Let's jump into the Sage nerf really quick. This was something that kind of took David P by surprise, as they've already took poor Sage out to the dumpster, and then they decided to throw some extra garbage on top. And let's hear from the devs. We have a little bit of snippet here talking about the Sage nerf.
Yeah, I think that's a great question. I think for most of our patches, we've tried to like ease it in, right? I think a lot of the past changes to Sage have been that ease in. And I think the thing that we noticed is that they were having pretty minimal effect on her actual play, like her play rate and her win rate. So that like basically when we decide to look at it, when we look at an agent to decide how to like balance them, we look at community sentiment, we look at our own like play, us as players, like how we're feeling about it, and then we also look at all the data that we have around how often characters are being picked and how often they're winning and on which sides they're winning most frequently. So with a character like Sage, we noticed that her pick rate was through the roof, the most popular agent in the game by leaps and bounds. One of the other designers actually posted a Reddit comment yesterday, kind of about some of that additional data. Like, she has had a pick rate over 90% almost the entire lifespan of the game, and her win rate has been the highest in the game for the majority of the game's lifetime. Very with minor dips at different points in time, but never. She's always been pretty much the highest or top 3, and that win rate has also been mostly on offense, which to us has always been not how she should be strong. We've always thought of her as a sentinel. She's really good at holding ground, fortifying locations, kind of letting her team get the job done. And so her ability to win on offense always struck us as very strange. And so many of our changes had been kind of slowly tailored towards trying to address some of that strength, that like specific offensive strength. That's when we kind of, we reined in the distance on the wall. We changed some of the health tunings on the wall, things like that. We never really moved the needle too much on any of those fronts. Maybe her win rate dropped by 0.2%. Like, that was maybe the best impact that we had with any of those small changes. She was still picked a ton. She was still winning a lot. And the pick rate, I think, is one of those things that we could probably be kind of okay with, given the reasons that a lot of people are picking her, which is they see her as a healer and they really want that healing, which there's not a lot of competition for that in the roster currently, which, we kind of knew that she was going to be picked a lot, but we still felt like she was probably picked even more than we would have expected at, over 90% for most of the game's lifetime.
Okay, well, I love that the as he's talking on that clip, we're actually watching David P use all of his abilities and then still get killed. So it's one of those things where I kind of felt that Sage was kind of floating out of the meta as it was at the competitive level. But the thing that I always have to keep in mind is the same thing that happens in Overwatch and CS and all these other games, is that the competitive level is like 0.01% of the entire population. So what we see at the competitive level doesn't necessarily reflect what is actually happening in the greater Valorant community. And I think that we've kind of seen now that they're going to take a little bit more of a drastic approach. So Simo, what was your take on the Sage nerf?
To some extent, I think there might be a little bit of a placebo effect that might come through. People, just because of a nerf, might stop playing Sage and not give her a little bit more time to really feel out the changes. I think for the most part, the biggest point or the biggest focus for me is the heal. I kind of compare the heal to Phoenix's heal now at the point. He can only heal 70 HP maximum with his hot hands or his blaze wall, but it's fast enough that he can get out of a sticky situation, heal up, and then kind of get back into the fray. I think self heal over 10 seconds. I think it's not the amount. I think it's the timing that needs to be fine tuned a little bit. And I'm sure that to some extent, Sage might get a little bit of a buff soon. And I think it might just be in the heal.
better.
I think the slow orb's fine. I just think 10 seconds for a self heal is a really long time. I do have to kind of
10 seconds is an eternity.
It's a very long time, but I do understand the nerfs. EC1S from Liquid said that at some points with a res and a heal feels like you're playing a 7v5, and I don't think pro players want to be in that situation, and I don't think the casual competitors don't want to be in that situation either.
Well,
you want to know the difference is, Moses? I'm gonna make it real fast. I know we short on time, man. I'm just gonna say this: there's a difference between Phoenix and Sage. Difference is Phoenix with the hot hands, he's gonna have to be stationary. He cannot leave that Molotov circle that he created with the hot hands. Correct? Sage, she can move, she can run, she can use the hill and then go right back into a gunfight. That is extremely dangerous, and the fact that it was free and was given to you every single round, I feel like it had to be nerfed to hell, and it shouldn't come back at all. Where it's at right now might be a hot take. I personally like it.
I think that Sage is gonna be, as she was already floating out as it was. So I think that as we have more agents come in, as we have more options on the table for choices for picks, that these things will happen naturally anyway. So I understand where the balancing decisions are coming from. I want to know, and this is just kind of thinking back to where Steel was going, is what kind of fatigue are they going to put on their player base in the same way that Overwatch did? And this was a conversation we've had for a long time about how when people get used to agents, and this is something that burned out a lot of Overwatch League pros, is the inability for them to have to continually adapt and the when you're playing at the highest level, you have to always be adapting to these changes. And if they happen too frequently, especially drastically, like they just did with Sage, you're going to have a lot of pressure on these players to have to adapt constantly, and that's going to lead to a lot of fatigue. So we'll see what happens with Sage. Let's move on to cheaters. Another topic that I'm going to try to speed through, but it's going to be impossible. Everybody is cheating apparently in CSGO, and no one knows exactly who yet. But it's like a lot of concerns in the back line. If you guys don't know what's going on in CSGO, you have a situation where there is spectator bugs being exploited. Coaches are being banned for cheating by watching an enemy spawns. And all of this then led into match fixing allegations or rumors, really not rumors at this stage. And there's a huge investigation going on from the ESIC, and it's now leaking into Valorant. So, and this is Jake Lucky coming in with some of his background information. I'm not really sure. I guess he's a news guy or he's just connected or whatever, but he does have a lot of this information.
I just started hearing about him.
Me too. Anyway, I can confirm apparently several top Valorant pros will be revealed in ongoing CSGO investigations for match fixing.
Ooh.
The debate right now right now is that should their punishments carry over from CSGO into their new game Valorant. So that's kind of the crux of this conversation, and this concern is that for all these guys that have come across from CSGO to Valorant, how many of them are implicated in this? How serious is it? How frequent was it? And what is going to be the punishment that comes along with it? And in my opinion, there's probably not going to be a punishment from Riot unless something is so egregious or there is some sort of evidence that would point them to believe that it's been done in Valorant. But if they're signed to top level teams like NVT1, doubtfully 100 Thieves at this stage, a FaZe Clan or whoever. Here's Flom bringing his opinion in. They committed a fucking crime. You don't avoid punishment because you play a different video game. Well, yes, but also, I mean, the punishment likely can't come from Riot because it doesn't really make sense for Riot to punish them. What they will be punished is the court of public opinion, which I promise you is worse. It's gonna be rough. So I'll start with you, Veli. Do you think that Riot should be banning people if they're implicated from CSGO?
I'm gonna just say this, and I just put it up on Google. In other countries, such as Europe, places in Europe, it's actually fraud. You can go to prison for match fixing. Is fraud in America too?
No, it's fraud in every sense of the word.
This is where it gets scary now. But I mean, okay, all right. But you go to prison and you don't. None of y'all want to drop the soap because I've seen y'all Valorant players, right? And this is where it gets really scary. You go to college and you match fix. You lose everything. You're kicked out of that college. It stays on your record. What's going to happen in gaming now? Happening in CS, Valorant pros.
You have rap sheets in gaming. Be like, where'd you come from? Look, what's your rap sheet looking like?
But it gets
CSGO. Got a warrant out for you.
It gets to a point though where we ask,
"Can I be the video game
this
sheriff?"
Is after we just This is after we just spoke with Still, and I like Josh. I think he's a great guy. I don't know what he was in trouble for, but I heard he was in trouble. It comes to a question now. Well, shit, man. God damn. I don't want to say I want to get rid of them all, but I do want to say I wouldn't be shocked if things got really serious with punishments handed down. I don't know if they want to do it from this year on forward and give the people from 2 years ago, 3 years ago a pass, and players from T1 or whatever. But something has to be done because match fixing is really bad. And you know what? A lot of match fixing happens every day in professional gaming. That's the thing. No one talks about it because it's under wraps. At what point do we really put our foot down and really punish these players? Do I think the orgs will do it? No. So the question is, go ahead.
No, I was going to say, like, the discussion that's happening in the chat right now is like the iBuyPower situation. So they got caught
so long ago, man.
And they got caught and they got banned. But the thing with that is that it was extremely public and very damaging for everything. It fucking toppled the CSGO betting industry. It obviously has ripple effects through all of Counter-Strike. And if you're sitting later, having seen all of this happen, and you're like, well, maybe we could get away with it. What are you thinking? Like, what are you thinking? Of course, you're not going to get away with it. Eventually, it's going to come out. And if it's been so prevalent, but I spent a lot of time before gaming in an investigative role. I don't know why I'm going to get into this, but anyway, I spent a lot of time around criminals. Okay, and the one thing that criminals love is comfort. Okay, and if you feel comfortable doing something, you're going to keep doing it. Okay, so when it comes to match fixing, if they felt they did it once and no one noticed, okay, do it again and again and again and again and again. Next thing you know, you're going to have this massive backlog of things you've done. And the one thing that always happens is someone figures it out. And that's what's happening now. So there's about to be this massive
game and run away to another one, man.
Well, no, I know that. But again, it's going to be, and Simo, I'll lead this to you now on the other side, is that if I'm a former professional CS player who's come across from the MDL or whatever, the orgs are going to shed these guys like instantly, right? You can't imagine these guys are going to keep these dudes online if they have, like, for instance, performing CS rosters as well as Valorant rosters, which is not too common, but it does happen. I can't imagine them keeping him.
I think there's kind of like two sides of the coin here. For one, for me, if we continue with that analogy of criminal rap sheets, maybe there's some form of community service for gamers to do, to make up for the
match fixing is different though, man.
No, I know
it's
true.
Crime.
It's true. But to be fair, I wanna continue with a different example. When it comes to hopping over to a different game, it's kind of like tax evasion when you're trying to evade taxes and go to a nice, Caribbean place to avoid the government. Like when you're hopping to a new game, that's pretty much what you're doing. Because Valorant, like you said, I think it brings up a good point that they can't really punish the people in a new game if they don't have that rap sheet in that game that they're in. So in theory, while it is still within the same country, it's like you're evading your taxes by going to a nice Caribbean resort and just living out the rest of your life with all the money that you made from the quote unquote match fixing.
Didn't that dude who made all that money on isn't that the life of all those guys that ran all those CSGO betting sites where they all just almost went to jail and they're like, I guess we just get to keep it all. Okay, we'll see you later.
Yeah.
Sorry, children.
So punishment can possibly
kid or whatever, just like in his mansion, just whatever. I don't give a shit.
All right. So how about this? This is a new angle. How would it look on Riot if Riot allows people that just got in trouble for match fixing on a big level to come to their game and compete? What lesson are they teaching the world?
It's the same thing as like state crime. Okay, we're getting way too much into the criminal shit here. You can't. They can't punish them. They can't punish them, dude. They can't do it because they have no evidence of anything being done against their terms of service or their competitive rule set. Riot can't, and they might just be like, fuck it. I mean, terms of service, it basically does say that we can do whatever we want at any time, and you can deal with that.
The fucking terms of service, exactly.
Oh yeah, well yeah, they can get rid of them if they want to, but again, it's going to be court of public opinion, and I promise you, and Steele could come back on the show right now and talk about the fallout of something like that. And because it's an integrity crime, it's an integrity issue. It's something you can't just go away from. It doesn't matter where you go, because it's like being labeled as a thief. Like, this guy steals. Like, that's you just can't get away from that. But ultimately, I think that the big thing that I hope for these guys, having seen the other side and knowing and having talked to people like Steele about when you're caught, you're caught. And I hope that these guys that are implicated in this stuff have the guts to go and admit it, because if you wait too long and you wait for it to come out publicly first, it's going to be worse. It's only going to be worse. And I really, really hope that that we don't lose or have too many people implicated. But from the sounds of it, it's going to be big. But we have to wait for the results of the investigation to come out. So if anyone wants to send me what the results are, I would be happy to talk about it on the show. Okay, sorry, cheaters. We have more things to talk about. We have upcoming tournaments as well. And this one is we'll start with Pulse, because this one kind of leads into the from the previous discussion. Pulse has this tournament coming out, $10,000 tournament, but for some reason they have 20 pro teams, but a lot of these pro teams are now dropping out of the tournament or saying they can't make it for whatever reason. Is TSM actually playing in this? I don't think they are anymore. Are they?
I don't think so. They're not.
So actually, and I think Envy dropped out as well, right?
I just got to go ahead and say that publicly. Envy and Gen G are officially out. So there are no
Envy and Gen G
of
are out
those
as well.
They're out. So these
Oh.
are all the teams that we're not used to seeing, which is a great thing in my opinion, because now we get to see the fresh talent and blood and possibly those
Well.
natural Valorant pros.
As much as I love
I know.
Gonzo Gaming, for instance, shout out to Gonzo Gaming and all the people that are playing on that roster. No disrespect to these players, obviously, but the big looming question here is: are these two things connected? Are these two things connected? If all these teams are dropping out, why? I mean, maybe it might be something with the organization. It might be there might be things behind the scenes, but it's kind of spooky how close these two things are together. So Simo, more to talk about here when it comes to the cheating aspect, or is this just we want to break, or the competition's
This is
been too heavy,
scary.
we want to take a little, what's going on? Do you think?
Yeah. I mean, Immortals has publicly gone on record to say that they are taking a little bit of a break, and I think, to be fair, considering Flashpoint was the last NA Ignition series, we're in a little bit of an off season. It doesn't hurt any team to take a little bit of a mental reset and prepare for the next NA tournaments that are up to come. I think it's also unfortunate that the
T1 and
Blast
100 Thieves
tournament,
don't
which
even
we're
have.
going to touch on later. The Blast tournament's also going to be coming around. There's empty rosters, like you're just alluding to. Like I just think it's unfortunate, and I think also for this tournament, a little bit of a hot take prediction. If there's so many tier 2 teams, and even in some cases tier 3 teams, we're going to see a couple of stomps, maybe even in the playoffs, which is something that we don't normally see, especially for FaZe. We saw teams fight it out hard. They were fighting tooth and nail to stay in the playoffs, have the deepest run possible. Whereas I don't know if that's going to be necessarily the case for Pulse. I would love to be proven wrong, but I've been casting this G Fuel tournament for the past couple of weeks, and it's usually only the semifinals that good competition starts to come to fruition. It's the rest of the bracket that is just stomp after stomp after stomp after stomp, and I don't know why. I don't know what's going on, but
It's not fun to watch, man. No, stomps are not fun to watch.
Yeah.
So I mean, that's my biggest issue right now. When unfortunately, like I hate to single them out because I know Pansy loves them, but like the BBGs come up, they get into the group stages, and then they get like they just get 2-0'd or whatever, and that's as far as they get. It doesn't feel productive for a team like that to try and swing above their weight. So I do believe that Pulse is going to be a good tournament, but it's not going to be as interesting for the greater fan base, considering how many people are absent from that. Veli, what are your thoughts on these teams dropping out? What do you think?
So you have to look at the writing, and then you gotta look at the elephant in the room, not the writing on the wall. You gotta look at the elephant in the room, right? You have this post tournament coming up, the CS match fixing allegations. Then all of a sudden, days before, all of your tier 1 teams of the post tournament drop out. That 20 pro teams is 0 now. That makes you you start to wonder, are these players involved in these allegations? Are they being investigated? We won't know. These players aren't going to speak up. It's going to be fucking Ziploc talk, excuse my damn language, but this is scary now, because I was talking to Van Silly yesterday and I said, what? No, it closes.
Oh, I see. Okay, sorry. I wonder if I wonder if I missed a cuss in there.
No, you're good. You're good. I said fucking. But I was talking to Van Silly yesterday, and I said, what if, right? I wish I had that. What if on each and every single one of these pro teams that dropped out? Because why do we all need to drop out, especially the lower tier teams that desperately need wins? Okay, that's the part that doesn't make sense to me. It makes sense.
Is it a win when all the other good teams aren't playing though? That's the other side of it, right?
It is.
Yeah.
Well, we asked the same thing. No, it is a win. You know why? Because we question T1 not entering tournaments. We question why they're not doing it when there was really like 2-3 good teams in NA at the time. That's actually a fact, right? Now, if I'm an 8th place team, if I'm a Cloud9, if I'm Gen G, Envy, and I want to get better, I want to play in this tournament. Not only to put more money in my pocket, but you want that winning experience, okay? You're not going to learn a whole lot in this event, but you're going to learn enough about what it takes to win and to see how you match up against the bottom feeders. Now, the fact that they're not doing it is starting to make me really think. Right. It's starting to make me really think that these players, players are involved.
The kings and the peasants. The
Yeah.
kings and the peasants. Yes.
The kings and
I
the peasants,
cannot
the bottom
wait.
feeders,
I cannot
whatever you wanna
wait
call
to
them,
get all
man.
my satisfaction from going out and beating a bunch of bottom feeders. That's what I want to. Look at my trophy case. I put the game. I put the game on easy and beat all these plebs. I too.
Moses,
It's like
Moses,
okay.
You can't look at me with a
Playing
straight face and
Minecraft on
say,
peaceful.
Yeah.
No, seriously. You guys cannot look at me with a straight face and say, no, the teams that placed 6th through 8th in the last tournament, they shouldn't play in here. They need to rest like
No,
the
they
other pro
can.
teams.
God bless them. Like again, I'm not like the thing is that I feel very bad because there's going to be players who watch this who are like, fuck these guys. Like they're like I'm not undermining the whole skill thing, but like
Dignitas.
we're yeah, but I'm talking about what do you mean Dignitas? They got 13-0'd in a tournament. Like I mean,
know, but I'm
like it
saying, where
happened very
are they?
recently.
They should be in this. There should be. In this.
Oh
They
yeah,
should.
no yeah. Dignitas should be playing in something like this, but maybe also there's the chance that everyone kind of just had sent a message to each other and was just like, okay, let's just self-imposed break. Let's all just instead of like one team forcing everybody else to come in. Like if Sentinels decided they wanted to play it, and was like, well, shit, now I guess we got to play too. So like it's
That's what I've
it's
heard. I don't know if it's true.
Yeah, maybe. Who knows? But we'll see. We're moving on now. 30 bomb. It's happening. Let's see the graphic for it. There it is.
Hooray.
Nice job, 30 bomb. Can't wait to see it. I mean, the last tournament was interesting. They were definitely punching above their weight as well. So I'm always happy to see these things going. We also have Rise of Valor. Same tweet, apparently same logo. No, different logo. So this is the Oceanic region, I believe, right? I'm taking that from Fortress Melbourne, the Twitter. I'm going to say yes, it is. And we also have FTW women's tournament happening as well. Always love to see. I think is this an all women's tournament?
The
I'm not sure if it's
German
oh, is it? Okay, yeah, nice. So glad to see that. Always glad to have that representation. And we also have Blast, who is announcing their tournament, which includes a grand total of 4 teams. There they are.
That's going to be a LAN.
So
it has to be a LAN.
No, it's not. It's not a LAN.
Oh, shit.
But
damn it.
But they have taken every single good team in European Valorant and put them all in the same tournament. So let's see if that's going to be interesting. I think this one's supposed to be the quote unquote last Ignition series for the European region now as well. So they have all the best teams in Europe, which is great. I think it's going to be a very high powered tournament. I would love to have seen more people in it because I know there's more than 4 teams in Europe. But that is what it is. What can you say? I'm not trying to blast through these guys blast through you guys with no response, but we want to get to the most important topic, which is esports drinks. So let's take a look at this recent tweet from Tim Hortons. And for those of you who don't know Tim Hortons, you'll notice that there's a Canadian flag on their logo, which could not be further from the truth. It is now a Brazilian-owned company who is now partnering with much noted and potentially sinister evil corporation Tencent, who are now partnering together, and they're going to have esports-themed beverages, food, and in-store activities. Tim Hortons opened his first coffee shop in China last year and planned to open 1,500 more of them, which would put them at a per capita distribution of it's still less than Canada, where you can get a Tim Hortons on every second block for the entire country. Tencent invested an undisclosed amount in the company this May, also known as they just dumped a bunch of money onto Tim Hortons to create shittier food and shittier coffee to feed to gamers while they play Nintendo Switches bolted to a wall, I imagine. So Asimo, I'm going to get this take from you as a fellow Canadian. Can Tim Hortons the brand be sullied any further? Like, what is next?
So
a mascot, like
the
mascot, or what?
I miss knowing that my French vanillas came from Canadian vanillas. I miss knowing that when I took a sip of my Tim Horton drink, that it wasn't, like you said, sullied by Tencent. This is just one of those things where they've got 5% in literally every company on the planet, and it's just a matter of time. They're like, you know what? We need a coffee beverage. That's what we're missing in our product mix. Somebody at Tencent walked up and said, you know what, this is a great idea. We need a Canadian coffee maker to be on our roster and repertoire of companies that we own. To be honest, I think, like, for example, Buffalo Wild Wings, who are partnered with everyone under the sun for esports events, I don't think that works at all. And then now you're going to try to replicate that model in a coffee shop. I just don't see it. I don't see the
a coffee shop that is like one of the least enjoyable places to go to now. Like, you go in there and it's just like a bunch of people standing in a line, just like, give me my $2 coffee. And just like, I want to get back in my work truck and get up to the site because this is the only thing that's going to keep me happy for the next hour and a half because my life sucks. Shout out to all the working men out there, by the way. I'm not trying to disparage you guys, but like, Tim Hortons has been like dialing back the quality on their shit for so long. And this is like inside baseball for anyone who doesn't live in Canada. But like, just imagine Starbucks just like slowly adding a little bit more cardboard to their food and beverages until you're just like, what does that taste? And they're like, okay, one more back. And then that's where they leave it. So I don't know what the hell's going on with Tim Hortons, but who gives a goddamn about Tim Hortons anymore? I'm so mad about Tim Hortons, dude.
People
It used to be good. Good. Oh yeah. What types do you? Hold on. I'm reading the runner show. What type of drinks do you think they will serve? Garbage, I believe, is the answer. Oh yeah. Oh, speaking of which, we have speaking of garbage. Here's Daniel. No, this is not Daniel's. This is actually our producer Ian's next foray into the business world. This is a product mock-up that Veli drew, I imagine. Which is just a green mug with like orange smudges in there. Picture of Grassroots root beer. Does not smell good. Tastes like hotel lobby coffee mixed with Tim Hortons. Is the electric green of Mountain Dew with flecks of Dorito orange. Is the electric green of Mountain Dew with flecks of Dorito orange is absolutely necessary for the healthy diet of an up-and-coming esport. Like esport player or just the whole esport?
Moses. You know what this looks like? It looks like the green dude from Ghostbusters and carrots, and they threw it in a ninja blender and it just handed it out, yo. I don't understand this.
I don't understand it either. But I mean, if you want to market things that don't smell or taste good, I do suggest Facebook or Instagram because apparently that is huge. We're going to take a very quick break because I feel like I'm on an acid trip. So we are going to be back in just a couple of minutes as we come off the Tim Hortons and Grassroots root beer discussion, and we come back and talk about roster moves, where we have more exciting topics and more discussion coming very, very soon, including the T1 changes and much, much more. So don't go anywhere. We'll be right back. Welcome back to Valoranting. I'm joined by Simo and Veli, and we have some fun things to talk about, which is always going to be roster moves. So we're going to blast through this. We have a Noble roster announcement coming in as well. I have not actually seen this one, so I'm excited to see it. We have show me the Noble roster. Who's on this one? This is Lemonade Stand. Simo, you've been around the block. Tell me about Lemonade Stand. What should we be expecting from these guys?
To be quite fair, I think, if you've heard of a team like China Win, they've got relatively the same caliber of play that they can bring to a tournament. In the recent FaZe Clan Invitational, they dropped down to the losers bracket, actually taken out Built by Gamers, which I think was one of the early signings of like what we would consider a tier 2 team. And so for them to have great success against other tier 2 teams, or just, teams on the precipice of tier 1, it's a good sign. But I still think that there's something to be said about what Steele said earlier, that everyone sucks. So we'll have to really see how this team shapes up and how they do, because there's a lot of tier 2 teams, and I think it's difficult to separate yourself apart in terms of identity. And so we'll see how they do that.
Absolutely, and that's the major thing. And I think that kind of turns me off on and not in the sense that these guys aren't good players, because obviously they are.
Yeah.
Like, all these guys are good players, but in what context? In the greater context of the competitive scene right now, like where the tier 2 scene is definitely, it's great to see it developing, I will say, because when you don't have a tier 2 scene, you don't really have a very good tier 1 scene. So to have this developing and to have these teams having support, that is good. Whether or not we will see them in high-level competition anytime soon, that is to be determined and probably unlikely, but it's good to have them around. We also have Venerated Veli putting out this tweet,
my man.
which says basically nothing. So shout out to Venerated. I know Venerated personally, known him for a while now, a couple of years, met him a lot. This is roughly as much information that you're ever going to get out of him at any time. So that is good to see. Love the eye emoji.
I'm so happy.
I was really hoping. I was really hoping for the Arthur contract sign gift that we normally see. But he went with the eye emoji, so always good to see. I don't think we have any other information other than that. So shout out to Venerated for that. I appreciate you filling up our show. We also have Sayaf leaving Bonk, which is a little bit more of a rock in the Valorant industry where Safe has left Bonk Valorant. So yes, he's out. I imagine we'll see more of him. Bonk has had success and is arguably in well, they're a top 10 team in Europe, but I think there's only 10 in Europe total. So that doesn't say a lot. But I will say that Bonk has been playing well. And I think their most recent claim to fame was losing to G2 in a final, if I remember correctly. Pretty sure. Let's all just
that was it. That was
right.
it. That was their last
Allied Esports, maybe. Allied
Esports.
Odyssey,
yeah, exactly.
Yeah.
Last map, he went 20 and 18. Man, the guy could play his ass off.
Oh no, he's a great player, and Bonk is a good team. So I mean, I imagine he's going to show up somewhere else on like on a signed roster of some similar caliber team, because he probably wouldn't leave at that point. So we also have Big announcing their 5th Zonix, and there he is, Zonix. Shout out to that guy. So I look forward to Big Clan doing big things in Valorant. So that's that. Now let's talk about the fun stuff. T1, ladies and gentlemen, we're back with T1 and more whatever has been happening with this team, which is somewhere between a professional Valorant team and a all-out dumpster fire. I'm being hyperbolic, but let's talk about this again. An update to my fans and fans of T1. As you may have noticed, I haven't been playing with the squad in competitions, and again, we'll be competing in this weekend's event. I've been grinding to expand my agent pool and overall impact with the op, and we'll be back with T1 when the time is right. Also, when they get rid of the toxic people on my team who have been leaking team comms. But in the meantime, I'm going to be practicing with other teams to stay sharp. I'll be back soon and better than ever. So, again, a quick recap for the people who have been living under a rock and not heard us talk about this 1,000 times in the last 2 weeks. Skadoodle and T1 and the whole squad, Simo and Veli, have been in light turmoil basically every stage of the way from their own tournament. It's probably reached peak turmoil in the last couple of weeks, having team comms being leaked out about Skadoodle's performance as a player from Food and Crashies. Not to mention this, the potential CSGO match fixing stuff is a potential factor. Veli, this does lead and to cap this off as to what happened. Food and Crashies were cut last week. I assumed that was going to be making way for Steel to come onto the team, but that was not the case. As Steel pointed out earlier, that wasn't going to happen. So with that in mind, Veli, I'll start with you. If Steel wasn't the play, what is for T1? What do they do now?
T1's not ultimately bad. I still like what they currently have. Oh, sorry, I was reading this. And
yeah, no, it's okay. I'll read it for you. This is, and then I'll let you get back to your point. So this is Food saying the whole conversation is out of context, and Ska has been made aware of what happened. Those words were not mine, as I was relaying what was said to me by another individual not within the team. There is no bad blood between us, and we only want the best for the team. Go Valley.
All right, so this is my question. Is Fraud going to stay on the team, or is he going to go back to being a coach? Because when Fraud came in and he was a duelist, I thought he was pretty impressive. Has there been official word yet about him just being a fill-in? No,
maybe
okay. So
maybe Fraud will play. Who knows? That's fine. I mean,
like Fraud.
That doesn't fix their problems. I don't think. Yeah, it's not going to fix their problems, though.
Right?
Well, I mean, unless he's IGLing and he feels like he wants to come back and compete, I mean, that would be fine. But so I don't think that's going to be that's not going to be the fix to their issues.
I don't know. Like, this is really tricky for me as well because of the simple fact, like, I don't have a CS background like the rest of these players. So, like, in their minds, who they think would be a perfect fit as a fifth or whatnot. Like, I wouldn't be able to guess. I don't know if you or Simo have a better thought than I do about this next pickup. But me personally, I like the fact that T1 made this change. I like the fact that, you know,
Oh, they
they're
had to
gonna
make the
keep
change.
fraud,
They had
kind
to.
of. They had
had
to.
to make the
I
change.
said they
Yeah.
had to. Yeah. But I really like
I'm
fraud
gonna-
on this team. I
I'm
hope
gonna
he
get
stays,
Timo's-
but as a fifth, I don't know.
Yeah, I want to get Simo's opinion on this as well, but I'm going to preface it with this. Come back to me, Daniel. I want them to see my face when I say these words. I'm going to look into the camera and talk to all you young bucks out there. Okay?
Oh,
Listen to me
boy.
right now. Do not leak team comms to anyone outside of your organization. Don't talk about your teammates. Don't talk about how they're performing. Don't talk about your problems with them. Don't talk about your problems with other people. Keep it in-house, because this is what happens. It leaks out. It makes you look like a fool. You have to do all this PR work, and it ultimately leads to a division in the team, which, as a competitive squad trying to succeed, is the last thing you ever want to have happen. So you young bucks out there, it might be fun to talk on Discord about the problems you have in your team, but as adults, as professionals, you have to work on it. Don't leak it to other people, because then it becomes a public discussion. It makes the org look bad. It makes you look bad. And that's going to be a stain, just like anything else or any other problem that you might have in your career. Don't do that shit. Simo, what do you think about what's going on in T1? I think I think that they're a bit lost right now.
I would have to second that motion completely. You know, when you watch T1 play, you know, outside of playing with fraud, they've constantly put themselves in a position where they just look like they're not communicating. It doesn't look like they have a solid IGL that they can fall back on. And it doesn't help that 100 Thieves just gobbled up some of the two best IGLs on the free market, Nitro and Steel. And then now you're stuck with, yeah, they needed one of those two, and they got none of them. 100 Thieves is just building a roster of IGLs, and they're all going to call their own shots from their own respective parts of the map. But, you know, for T1, I don't know how you can band-aid the situation. You've got these strong mechanical players that are coming from CS. You know, Steel said 80% of this game is CS, so those skills are going to be very easily transferable. But the problem is that you need someone that is going to lead the team. But not only that, the players on the rest of the roster respect that leader. You've got Brax, you've got AZK, you've got Ska. You know, if you bring in a player that is less experienced than those three, there's going to be issues. There's going to be clashing between the players, because they're not like, you know, I'm better than you. I have more veteran experience than you. So they need to bring in an IGL that is experienced and veteran, but those two of the best options are already off the market. Who else are you going to get, unless it's going to be from a tier 1 CS team, which I don't see that happening, because I think everyone's quite cozy where they are right now.
Yeah, no, I don't think that's going to happen either. I mean, I look at T1 as a squad that had a lot of unproven potential, even out of the gate. I mean, Skadoodle is a retired CS pro. We've had this discussion. I am of the mind that once you come to the mental point where you're going to retire from your profession, which is what Skadoodle did, it is very hard to restart that again. I'm not saying that he's doesn't have the drive. Maybe I kind of am. I don't know, but we'll see. We need to see a lot more from this squad, as we've seen not a lot of movement in any direction. It just seems that they've been flat. They're not bad players, but they're definitely nowhere near firing on all cylinders. So Fraud as a player, he's a legendary mind in CS. I imagine they need a strong leader. They need a Captain America. They need somebody who's gonna, you know, get them all excited and you know, we have that competitive fire, whatever it is. I've seen a lot of interviews with the players on T1 currently, specifically Skadoodle and Brax, and their personalities are kind of quiet, reserved. You know, they're obviously very skilled players, but when you're having problems, you need people who are willing to discuss those issues. And without knowing what's going on between closed doors, T1 is just in disarray. And I don't know what they're going to do. I honestly don't know what they could do that would give their fans, Veli, any confidence in their moves right now. And right now, unfortunately, as I like to say, their moves are weak. So I just don't know where T1 goes from here. Maybe someone said dazed
and just start doing better.
I cannot even.
I see in the chat. Fuck, yeah.
Yeah, I mean, the dazed thing would be so ridiculous. Again, I don't know dazed, but I know dazed story. So when they all got banned, they were all going to have their resurgence. You know, some of the bans were starting to be repealed. They could play in, you know, MDL and ESEA and those kind of things. Steel went back to the grind, and he dragged 2 teams from obscurity to the top 15 or top 20 in CS.
No shit.
2 separate squads of different players. That is grinding. Okay, that's not easy. Top 20 CS is like top 20 football, top 20 basketball in esports. It's one of the hardest things you can do. Dazed quit. And then started doing like CSGO gambling streams and stuff like that. Do you have the fire? I don't think so. I don't think if they put Dazed on the squad, having had all the clout and everything he had in CS, unable to make it work, it just wasn't for him, and it didn't last long. It was only a couple of weeks. So to have him leave all of that practice and whatever behind, come over to Valorant, maybe he'd have success because he's got that pedigree. But to kind of go back to the player model that Steele was talking about, Veli, I don't think that he would be long for the Valorant world, even if T1 decided to do this. And really, I think it would cause more problems than fix.
That's the thing I'm seeing now. So I didn't know Dade's full story. So now that I'm seeing that he was also involved with stuff like this, is T1 just going to be that organization that picks up people with the troubled past and hope that it works? That can work. Only under one condition, though, if that team is winning. If this team isn't winning. So Dade's going to T1. What if they continue to fail? I don't see this team lasting if that happens. So you know what? Actually, I hope T1 does well. They were the first superstar team and organization in the scene. But if this team falls flat on their face and this whole shit, this whole operation is going to implode, and it's going to be well worth it. I really hope they pick it up.
Maybe if it is Days and he comes in and maybe he's the Valorant Messiah that T1 needed. Maybe, who knows? But I just
so
look
much
at the,
drama
I just look
and
at
L's an org can get.
Yeah, I mean, it's just like, what is the upside, and what is the downside? Either you have something that you know is going to work, and you've planned it and you've practiced it, and maybe you've scrimmed it or whatever. But then who's the fifth, and who is that player going to be, and then how are they going to all fit together? Steele was already talking about the reason why iBuyPower was looking to break up beforehand anyway. So if Steele is looking at why retreading it and using that as his motivator, what is everybody else thinking? Like, well, shit, let's get a paycheck maybe. I don't know, but Seema, what's your take on the whole situation?
It's just tricky. I think the biggest point I think is what Veli was talking about. How and particularly you, how you outlined for Days how he just dropped out, like he just stopped playing, and for Steel it was a completely different story. I think for T1, you have to make this decision super carefully, because at the end of the day we have all these match fixing allegations. We have a lot of hubbub about CS players coming into Valorant and how that might taint the scene or whatever. But I think ultimately T1, a very established organization, doesn't want any of that associated with their brand. And
exactly,
I mean, if the team wants to try again, they want to try again. But at the end of the day, you also have to consider how much of the conversation that is surrounding the CS match fixing scandals that are coming through, how will that affect the organization? Will it? I don't know. I'm not claiming it will, but that's something they have to consider and be careful of, especially when you're thinking about the PR of your org. Because right now, not only are you not doing well, but there's these scandals that are coming out, and it could somehow, some way, people are going to tie it together, and it's going to come back to hurt you.
I agree. You can't lose and have a team full of misfits.
What has Days been doing? What has Days been doing the last 2 years? What is he like? I ask this honestly. Like, he's maybe been playing like rank S. Has he been playing rank S? Has he been playing in FPL? Like, what has he been doing? Where is this coming from? Why is Dazed all of a sudden the number one choice? That's my question. So like there's been, it's like coming out of retirement. It's like Shaq's gonna come back and play for the Celtics one more season. Can he still run? Like, are we sure about that? Like, it's like, okay, fair enough. But yeah, I don't know. Making money in real estate. Okay, that's good. Shout out to the chat for keeping me. That's something T1 needs, is some real estate agents. God damn it, T1! Like, why are you doing this? This better not be true.
Yeah, because right now it's a little unfortunate that the other teams are living in their head rent free, so they need a real estate agent to find some property.
Yeah, man. Yeah, definitely. You gotta get Days, the real estate agent, in there and shake things up a little bit. Now it's time for a fun exercise. I can't wait to do this. Okay, so we're now going to do live power rankings for the entire world. Okay, so
Top 5.
let's talk about it. So I'm gonna give just my baseline top 5. Okay, and I'm gonna do this for them, and then we're gonna kind of come to an agreement on who should be where. So I'm just gonna give the baseline. Daniel, get your typing fingers ready. I'm gonna start with G2 at the top. I'm gonna follow that up by Sentinel. Okay. And then we're gonna go to we'll say Liquid or FPX. Let's say Liquid. Why not?
Okay.
And then we'll say TSM and then Cloud9. That work for everybody?
You know what? I'd argue that.
Just wait. Let's get it on the board. Let's get it on the board first.
Okay.
So we'll start again.
Okay.
That's G2.
It's really
What did I say the
interesting.
second team was? Sentinels.
Sentinels.
And then
FPX.
Liquid, whatever. Pick one.
Oh, Liquid.
And then
TSM.
and then TSM and then Cloud9.
Yeah.
Let's start
Okay.
with FPX.
Darkoplax is having a
Nice.
fucking conniption in the chat as per protocol.
Right.
Yeah.
FPX is so
Don't-
much
don't
better.
get a-
Liquid sucks.
He's
Okay,
having,
Darko.
he's having a meltdown. Let's just let it. Darkoplax
So
is very passionate.
We needed to
And then
EU
we
bias
said-
because Pansy is AFK.
Yeah, what are you talking about?
Hmm.
So okay, we'll put Liquid in there. Okay, we'll put Liquid in there. On number 3. And then we'll have TSN. No, you f***ed it up. You want to have TSM instead of Liquid on 4. And then Liquid instead of FPX on 3.
On 3, yeah. Simo,
Excuse
say
me?
FaZe clan first, or they're gonna.
Yeah,
take
that's
all
true
your
too.
pearls
Okay,
away,
well,
right?
so we also have. Let me just open up the most recent Liquipedia page.
I want to hear Simo's takes. I've never spoken to Simo.
Yeah, what are your
about,
give me your
his
give me your
power
top 5.
rankings.
Give me your top 5, Simo. Give me your top 5.
My top 5. Well, it's FaZe.
Yeah.
FaZe. No, I'm just kidding. It's
Merch.
for top 5. I'd probably put Sentinels at number 1. I think.
Okay.
I
All right. So
think,
put Sentinels at number 1.
Okay, I think Sentinels at number 1.
Okay.
Sentinels at number 1. Probably put FPX at like
I would
number
say
2. I
TSM.
think
Sorry, who?
maybe FPX or TSM at number 2. One of those two. I think.
Okay,
I think
FPX number 2. Okay.
This is probably where I'd
Say
put,
with your
I'd
chest,
probably
Simo.
put. You know what? FPX.
We'll
TSM,
put G2
second
at
and
number
third.
3. We'll put G2 at number 3. We'll say.
Okay.
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 Yeah.
Okay.
And then we have Liquid instead of TSM.
Sure. I'll go with that.
Okay.
And then be Cloud9, and then finish off with Cloud9. I think.
And then Cloud9.
Fifth,
Velia, I hope
Yeah,
you're seeing where we're going with this. So go ahead and give me your top 5.
Sentinels number 1, easily.
Okay, Sentinels
that-
number 1. Okay.
TSM.
Okay, Sentinels TSM.
Cloud9.
Oh shit. Okay.
Jesus.
G2.
Oh,
G2's at 4th now,
FPX.
and FPX. Okay.
FPX.
Belly,
Alright,
yes.
so
are you
Okay,
Belly, are you
okay,
reading
we'll make some
hold on, hold on,
concessions.
Cancel
hold on,
this
hold on.
guy.
Hold on. Belly, are you reading off of the VLR.gg/rankings page? Are you just reading off the teams one at a time?
Yeah.
No,
Okay. Let's bring this out. Let's get a new one. Okay. So let's wipe the
Devin
board. We'll
Crackhead.
take it.
Someone in the chat called me a crackhead for my picks. Let's go.
Okay. Wipe the board. I think I have this. Okay, so let's bring
Okay.
we all a lot of us said Sentinels number 1, so we'll move Sentinels up to number 1. Daniel, if you could. Okay, so this is going to be the final top 5 world power rankings. So we have Sentinels number 1.
Okay.
I'm waiting for it. We're gonna lock it in. Type the word Sentinels, Daniel. I believe in you.
Make it official, Daniel.
Make
Has
it
to be,
official,
man.
Daniel. Okay, now we're gonna go, and based on the discussion, we're gonna put FPX number 2.
Oh,
I agree
Okay.
with that. I'm there. I'm with you.
I
Keep
agree
going.
with that as well. I think
okay.
we're gonna have to put TSM at number 3.
I can roll with that.
All right.
Accept it.
Okay. TSM number 3.
Okay.
I'm just busting balls the end. Don't worry. I know Daniel's typing this fast. Those three letters can be difficult.
Look at the small brain people in the chat.
They're far on the keyboard.
I
They're
know.
far on the keyboard.
There's a reason why we're on the show and they're not. Don't listen to them. So then I guess looking at the I guess we would have to say then probably are we saying Liquid? Or
Yeah.
who do you think for 4? Liquid? Okay,
Let's say
Liquid.
Liquid.
All right.
Okay.
All right. Liquid's a good choice. I think they have a lot of, I mean, Scream's a really great player. So we also, I guess we'd have to round out with Cloud9. I mean, they have Tense, probably one of the best players.
I'm choked.
Right. Keep this serious. This is a
Okay,
serious
okay.
segment, okay, Daniel? I'm gonna have a conversation
Okay,
with you after
sorry,
the show's
sorry.
over. All right?
Okay.
Someone professional, man.
Yeah, seriously,
Let's
get it
have a
together.
great show here.
Liquid, okay, and then we'll say Cloud9, and I think that's I think that is
That is
basically
an awesome list.
that's a pretty great
That's
list
great.
right there, and I don't think anyone could argue it. There's no
Yeah,
way.
I think in the first list we forgot some teams. So now it feels right. It feels like we haven't
really talked about like Immortals, Gen G, all those other good teams as well.
Yeah,
I mean,
or
those
like
guys have been
Bonk.
grinding. Bonk is
Yep.
good too. Well, they
Bonk,
did
Nip.
lose a player.
Yeah, Bonk, Nip. Yeah.
You know,
Nip
Yeah.
as well.
I feel like a lot of good teams
So-
were left out this list. Like 100 Thieves were
Yeah,
waiting
well,
for the roster to finish. So
100 Thieves
Or
hasn't
FaZe
finished
Clan.
their-
Come on, FaZe Clan.
Well,
Hello?
yeah, FaZe has been playing
FaZe
okay.
Clan?
I mean, yeah, that's true too. Okay, well, I mean,
Yeah.
this is happy. I'm happy with this. So,
Yeah.
so
Yeah,
let's
respect
we'll
it.
call it as
Respect
it is. That's the official top 5 world power rankings here from Valoranting, and that's that. So that is going to do it for the show today. I have to give a big shout out to Simo for stepping in last minute. To of course to yeah, exactly. There's no.
No, G2, y'all. Someone in the chat, shout out to Infamous. He said, "I'm confused." Just
Oh my goodness. Well,
I love
honestly,
how they were collectively getting more pissed at us as the list went on.
so I mean, the thing with top 5 world power rankings is that it's impossible, which is why we've decided to troll you with it. So I hope you guys, specifically all the G2 fans, enjoyed that exercise in futility, and I hope we all triggered you exactly as much as we hope to. So that is going to conclude our show today. I have to say a huge thank you to Simo and Veli for joining me here. We covered a lot. We had a great discussion with Steel, and I hope you guys enjoyed the show as well. And I hope to see all the triggered people back in the chat next week, including everyone right now who's furiously typing on Reddit about how trash our show is.
I like to say
gentlemen,
something.
Yeah, real quick for Veli.
Oh, sorry about that. You was just about to throw it to us.
go
I know
ahead.
I said
Go ahead.
said something
man.
last week about a $100 giveaway, and I'm gonna be completely honest. Life got ahead of me, and I haven't been on top of that. I haven't been on top of thinking about how I want to give that away. I'm still gonna give it away. So most likely it's gonna be next show. No, 100% it's gonna be next show. Whether I pick 2 people and y'all 1v1 pre-recorded, then I bring it to the producers. I don't know. I'm gonna think about it, but I'm gonna give away some money. Like I said, I want to show love to the community. So make sure you tune in next week as well if you want some money in your pocket. And Uncle Veli, he got you. Okay, we'll show some love. But yeah,
Veli's
man, Moses, I had fun, man.
Yeah, that's good, man. Veli's also going to be hosting a festival out in the Caribbean, where there's going to be lots
Only
of
match
huge
fixers.
music artists. It's
John
going to be
Rollins
fire.
coming.
It's gonna be fire.
Only match fixers allowed. Only
Maybe
match
DMX
fixers
will be there. Everybody from the '90s that had like a couple of good albums is going to be there.
Tupac is there.
Simo, last thoughts? Any final thoughts from you?
Just honestly happy to be on the show. I've watched this show consistently. I think it's the best Valorant show that's out there right now. Sorry, ESPN.
put it
I
in the
know that
intro.
I've been on there a couple of times. Yeah, throw this one in the intro. This is one of the great shows. I think you guys cover all of the great topics. You guys touch on everything that is important for the scene, and ultimately have good, unbiased opinions. And I think the key word there is unbiased, and I'll leave it on that.
I like Simo.
I've never been accused of being unbiased in my entire life. How dare you?
That's
so,
Simo.
that's how it works when you're in the scene, man. You're always biased against somebody. All right, everybody. Thank you for watching. We'll see you next week, Tuesday. Same bad time, same bad channel, 11 a.m. Pacific time. Check us out on Twitter, Twitch, YouTube, and everywhere else podcasts can be found. And we'll see you guys next week. Have a great week, everyone.